From the studios of Staten Island Community Television, you're watching In the Bleachers, the TV show for the world's most passionate sports fans. Hello, everyone. I'm Jaime Hixson, joined by my dear friend over the phone.
The hardest, baddest, sexiest man on cable access TV, yours truly, Hector Bosa. And we have here a great day so far.
So far,
Is
yeah.
it not? Because now the Giants are finally getting a real general manager, or they're interviewing for general managers. What do you think of the prospects?
I think they already hired a guy. It's Joe Shane.
What do you think of him?
Well, he does come from a pretty good organization. He was in Buffalo for about 5 years, but he's had a long shelf life in the NFL, not just with Buffalo. He's been a scout with other teams, and I think the Giants got themselves a pretty decent guy over here. So now comes the hard part. Getting the general manager is easy. That was the easy part. The hard part is getting the coach.
Well, he wasn't a GM.
He was an assistant GM.
He was an assistant GM. And the Broncos are doing okay because they're in the playoffs, or they were in the playoffs, if I remember correctly. So,
I mean the Bills.
The Bills. So how do the fans feel about him? Was it the right choice? When you hear the news, when you listen to radio stations, what have you heard? Because, you know, some people always like when it's always 50-50 or, oh, he's the greatest thing. Sliced bread. What do you think?
I think they made a decent hire. I mean, especially considering the fact that he's had almost 2 decades worth of experience. I think he was just waiting for the right time, not to say that he wanted to leave Buffalo, because he did a really good job helping out with the Bills, constructing this franchise the way they are right now.
The thing is, when you say GM, you're saying, well, he may be good, but he's not good. Either he's good, excellent, or great, something of that nature, because fans like to hear those words.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not just okay, because meaning that the Giants don't know what they're doing and they just hired a mediocre guy, even though he has a plethora of experience and everything else. But it's just like getting the number 1 draft pick, and you're choosing the right guy. Like when they, let's say, picked Patrick Ewing.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody exploded. Everybody thought he was the greatest thing, and he is, and he was.
And he was.
And that's why I'm saying, when you start talking about, well, he's okay. And when you talk to fans are going to go, oh, wait a minute now. He's good, but he's not that good. So he's just okay.
Not to say that he's just okay. I mean, he brings in a lot of experience. I mean, this has to count for something.
Yeah, but so did the other 2 people. I mean, you know how people are sometimes, where they go, this is the guy I really want because this guy would have made a choice. You know, this guy would have made a difference. Because they, out of this 3, they hired this particular guy. I would just like to be, I would love to be in an interview and go, okay, what is it about this guy that they hired? Because in a regular job and a job like that, I think is a little different.
Well,
but so who do you think he's going to hire as coach? Do you think he'll hire a college coach, or do you think he'll hire an assistant coach from somewhere?
It's definitely not going to be a college coach, that's for sure.
From Buffalo.
it's definitely not going to be a college coach. I mean, they've been looking at offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators, and just recently they wound up interviewing Brian Dabble, who just so happens to be the defensive coordinator over at the Bills. Oh, wait a minute, he's an offensive coordinator. The D coordinator is Leslie Frazier, who also, by the way, got an interview. And if I'm not mistaken, I think coming up, the Giants are supposed to set up a meeting with Dan Quinn, who's the Cowboys' defensive coordinator.
Because all I know is that all the people that they interviewed were in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going, well, that's cool. All the people that they've interviewed that are in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. They decided to change the rule which prevented assistant coaches from interviewing during the playoffs.
Yeah, because then it would be, I don't know why. Why did they do that?
I think it had to do with trying to get the right person at the right time. They wanted to be able to be the first team in line to offer their services to him.
Because, as you know, they always, well, at least it's just one of those things where they want to, I think, probably speed up the process.
Mm-hmm.
Because they think, because what does it, I mean, really, what does a GM do in the playoffs?
Pray that his team advances to the next round?
Yeah, I'm just saying, what does he do in the playoffs? Meaning he doesn't give any input or anything of that nature that you know of.
Well,
the coach that gets it, when you're in a playoff or when you're in a game, you don't contact your GM.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just see what's out there.
Yeah. My guess is that they have to preside over the college draft, see what prospects are out there, and also what they should do at their particular pick. For example, both the Giants and the Jets have 2 number 1 draft picks. I think the Giants, let me check that over here.
No, the reason why I'm saying this is because all of a sudden they decided to go and say, you know what, now it's the time to forget that rule. Because before it used to be after the playoffs, after everything was done, then we start deciding, okay, do we allow him? I'm surprised they allowed him because you got to get permission.
Yeah. And
Especially
for the record, the
when you're in the
Giants have
playoffs.
2 draft picks. They're picking 5th, and I think they're also picking 7th as well, while the Jets, they have number 1 picks at number 4 and at number 10.
And they also have both teams, I think, in the second round, they have high draft choices too. As well. So
this is where they really have to get creative.
Yeah, now we start with a clean slate because now you start going, who do you keep? Who do you get rid of?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the first target is after they hire a coach. Because they should hire him before, you know, the college draft picks.
Right.
Who do you think he'll hire?
Who's Joe Shane going to be hiring for the Giants?
Yeah, who do you think?
I would hire the guy who so far has not even gotten any contact from the Giants lately. I think they should give Brian Flores a chance. I mean, he got recently let go by the Dolphins. Who knows why? And I think the Giants should at least give him the courtesy of an interview.
But what has he done to deserve an interview? Because if you let someone go, something must have happened. Because were the Miami Dolphins in a good position that they let him go? Were they in a bad position that they let him go?
Well, let's see. I think he had 2 or 3 years with the Dolphins. This past season was really up and down for them. They lost 7 out of their first 8. And then I think they won 7 out of their last 9 or so, or something like that. So he was able to right the ship, and the Dolphins were able to win games.
So within the 3-year time period that he was there, did he improve the team?
He definitely improved them this year, that's for sure. And that's despite the fact that they had some uncertainty at quarterback.
What was the problem?
The problem was they didn't know who they wanted to have as their starter. Did they want to have Tua Tagovailoa, the kid from Alabama? Or did they want to have, excuse me, or did they want to have the backup? And if I'm not mistaken, I think Brian Fitzpatrick was on that Dolphins squad as well, but he wound up getting hurt, and he missed the majority of the season.
So now you have a guy that had, after 2 years of having a losing season, finally getting the team to work with him, and then all of a sudden they fire him.
Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason for him to lose his job.
Something must have happened because I'm sure they didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, the Dolphins missed out on the playoffs.
Okay, that's probably why. Because we've discussed already that if you don't show progress within 2 years, the first year is a pass. Second year, you got to show a little bit of a progress.
Mm-hmm.
Third year, you have to show something really good, and then afterwards, the fourth year, you just have to be just as good if they keep you for 4 years.
Yeah.
But if you keep on having 2 losing seasons, really bad losing seasons, even if you have a great season, unless you make the playoffs, then that's the only way they'll probably keep you.
Right.
But I don't know. It's just one of those things where you have to hire a coach, and the coach then starts with a clean slate, and that's going to be fun because, like I said, how are the Jets with their payroll?
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit of an issue because not only are they stuck with certain contracts, but they may not be able to get out of the salary cap hole that they're in right now.
Well, you see, that's what I was talking about. That's where the Jets have it over the Giants. That's where the Jets have it over the Giants. Because the Jets are still in a decent position because their salary cap is okay. So now that I hope he does well.
You're talking about Joe Schoen, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
of course. I hope the GM picks someone really good. And the Giants do very well. Now, the big thing is, do you have to keep the quarterback because there's nobody out there that the Giants can get?
They could probably get somebody in the later rounds.
That's true. But your problem is, do you keep your quarterback now?
If you're talking about Daniel Jones, I have to reluctantly say yes, because to be quite honest with you,
There's somebody out there.
not only that, but he himself has not necessarily distinguished himself in his 3 years here.
Well, that's what I've been singing that praise for a very long time. I've been telling you that for the 3 years within the 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because even in shows after, I've been saying if the guy's not improving, you got to figure out why he's not improving. Is it because of the people around him? What's causing this? And it still boils down to, because as you know, if you're a real damn good quarterback, you're going to make your team around you better.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a decent quarterback, you need a lot of help. Giants didn't give him a lot of help.
No.
Especially with COVID being around, first and foremost, for those people that do believe in COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
And also people that have gotten hurt in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, injuries and so on. But your biggest problem that you have is you have to keep this guy unless you make a trade.
At least for one more year, because I think he has an out clause for a 5th year.
Yeah, because remember, when you sign a guy in college, it's either 3 or 4 years. And he's still under the rookie contract.
Yeah, and he's already completed 3 years of that rookie contract, so next season might be lame duck status for him.
Well, he's a lame duck now, but right now, it's not that I dislike the guy, but you have to tell the truth about him, which is, has he done anything to try to improve the game himself? Has he done anything to do a lot of things? He hasn't really done anything. So,
well, ever since he pulled off that comeback in Tampa 3 years ago, it's been just havoc and chaos with this kid.
well, yeah, because remember how the coach was so great about him, saying, oh, he's our next quarterback. But they all say that. They all have to say that. But they're not going to say, oh, we screwed up. What team ever said we screwed up? No manager, GM, or anything of that nature has said, at any given time, I'm sorry, we screwed up. And as for the Jets, they just get a clean slate. They have high draft choices this year. They did well with their picks, meaning that they can get rid of them at any time because they didn't sign anybody with a high draft, and they did have a great salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
But now, with the Giants, who do they pick?
Who do they pick?
Yeah.
It depends, because they may or may not try and trade down just to see exactly what they can do to fill one of the weaknesses, one of the many weaknesses that they have. And
So
first
you're
things
trading
first,
down to get more draft picks.
possibly. First thing I would do, if they really want to try and improve on their weaknesses, get an offensive lineman, because that offensive line that they have now is a complete and utter disaster. I mean, there were a couple of strides that were made by maybe one or two guys, but everybody else Very, very, very suspect.
Yeah, but again, you have to remember something, and that is that they did draft some linemen and defensive players, and they got hurt. The people that were supposed to do something, they got hurt for the season.
Yeah.
And I'll just say that those guys have to come back, because I remember when they got drafted, they were picked pretty high, and people wanted them.
Mm-hmm.
People wanted them, so because even you said they did pretty good in the draft choice.
Yeah, they did.
They picked up good guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and they just got hurt. They just got hurt or just didn't play well, because again, it's the first season.
Right.
The first year, you're not expecting them to be. Well, we never get one of those breakout stars. Giant fans have more. Giant fans can say we've had more breakout stars than the Jets have.
Yeah, but unfortunately, those breakout stars were from the distant past, and they just don't seem to have that. Excuse me, that one guy that the fans can get excited for in the future. As far as the Jets are concerned, you won't believe this, but they actually did have one guy who really took a lot of people by surprise. He returned kicks, and he also served as a wide receiver. It's Braxton Barrios. He was probably their best player the entire year. And I'm hoping that he can give Jet fans a little bit of a something to look forward to for next season.
So you're saying that the Jets should go in and go, yeah, we got a decent team. We're just going to have to pick more draft picks, because from what I understand, the GM from the Jets is one of those guys that don't like to trade for anybody. He just likes draft picks.
Well,
that's the way you should do it.
I hate to tell you this, but trades and free agency are all part of the job. You can't build with just draft picks. It's impossible.
Yeah, but again,
and you have to. It's a 53-man roster that you have to account for.
Yeah, but remember something, and that is because again, as I've been saying for the past God knows how many months when it comes to the Jets GM, because I think he blew it, because they were under the salary cap, and as I've spoken before, that is, nobody wants to come to play in the Giants or Jets organizations because they're not ready to win yet. And if you pay one guy a big salary, then you blow it on everybody else when somebody else wants their money.
Yeah.
So you always got to start from in the draft picks, I should say, and then hope that you get one or two veterans that are in the middle like he did, that they're okay or good or a little better than what they are, and they'll win. And then afterwards, once someone sees that the Jets have an opportunity to win, that's when you go try to get your big star.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you're a big star, why do you want to come to the Jets?
A big star? A big star probably won't consider New York, and if they do, it would be with the Giants, not the Jets.
Huh?
if a big star does consider New York, and there is that possibility of it, he would consider the Giants, not the Jets.
Why? They're just as bad.
The Jets have the longer playoff drought.
Now, I understand that, but
Plus, their ownership situation is a little bit more controlled than the Jets is.
Yeah, but you have to sell this free agent to come and play for our organization and say, listen, you're 25, 26, 27 years old. We're going to get you for a 4-year contract, a 5-year contract. We're going to get you this amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
Has your team improved? No. If you sign me, can you get anyone else? You know, that's what I would say. If I'm going to an organization that, okay, I see potential, and if I'm there, I can help them out, but I'm not. I can't help them out by myself.
Mm-hmm.
So unless he, like everything else, like what the Brooklyn Nets did, which is, hey, we got KD,
who's hurt.
Yeah, but he's a big name, and then he brought Kyrie Irving, and then James Harden wanted to play for that team, and then Griffin wanted to play for that team. If you're a name, people want to play for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to bring in names to help, you're going to bring your friends to try to help you win the game. But that's not happening either with the Jets or the Giants. So that's the problem that you have, which is when you have an organization that is still a young team and, let's say they get lucky, they make the playoffs, they lose for 2 years, they make the playoffs, and then, this year they're doing okay.
Mm-hmm.
Who on that team can you say, all right, well, is going to stay and who's going to leave? Who do you trade? Does he have trade value? And the free agent's going to come in there and say, okay, how do you sell me on this team? Because as I said, you got it. I mean, I know you're going to, unless the guy just wants money, and then he goes, I want an out clause. That in case in 2 years I don't see this team improving, I want out. Because nobody really wants to start up on a startup team. Both Jets and Giants are still startup teams right now because they haven't done anything. Especially the Jets right now.
Yeah.
They're starting a clean slate once again.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that case, you just have to decide who are they going to pick and how do you convince the free agent. Forget, taking them to Broadway, get this, forget that. You can take them everywhere you want, but how do you convince them, come play with us? Here is our plan.
Right.
Here's where you fit in. And that's it. That's the best you can do. Just like you're interviewing for a coach or a GM. But a GM and a coach is a little different than a player. So, you think that the Jets will go down just to get more draft picks?
It's a strong possibility of it happening, yeah. Because they want to be able to get as many draft picks as possible to fill a whole bunch of needs. And I mentioned before that offensive line was a major horror show for them. I'd get an offensive lineman. I'd get a backup quarterback to see if Zach Wilson will be able to work out. I would also get myself a number one receiver, someone who can complement Braxton Barrios on the slot.
What, you don't like Mike Cann or Michael White?
He only had one great game, and then he got hurt.
Exactly. So you're going to give
It's
up
hard
on
to
him?
it's hard to judge the guy when he hasn't even played that much.
That's true. That's true, but that's like drafting a draft choice, which is, he did great in college, but you still don't know what you're going to get because it's the pros.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead, please continue, because like I said before, you're right. They have to do the linemen, offensive and defensive. They have to do a lot.
Yeah.
And hope that the other guys that were hurt for the entire year come back. They have to come back next year. And Lord willing, COVID will be going down or get rid of it, even though that's not going to happen because of certain people.
Mm-hmm.
And also, hopefully the Jets will get lucky and the Giants will get lucky and draft that one guy that'll be a sunshine.
They're really going to have to hit a home run in order to do that.
I mean, the Giants did with Saquon Barkley, but he's been hurt. But at least he gives you hope.
See, I don't know why people are so down on the guy. I mean, he's barely played because he's been hurt, but
that's what
didn't they remember the rookie season that he had?
Right. But again, as you like to point out sometimes, it doesn't matter what he's done in the past. It's what they're doing now.
Yeah, I'm a little perturbed at the amount of criticism that's being brought over to Dave Gettleman. That was a Dave Gettleman pick, Saquon Barkley.
Right, and he did well. But the thing is he a person that's going to get hurt a lot? How is he going to come back this year? Because this year is the end of his contract.
Mm-hmm.
Either he comes back strong, because now he's got to show he's worth the money. And then when you pay him, is he going to be a liability?
Yeah.
Will he get hurt as much as he's done now? Because for 2 years, he's been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
He's done great, but he's been hurt.
Yeah. His first 2 seasons, actually his rookie season, he was just dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
The second season, he missed 3 games because he was hurt. Still managed to get 1,003 yards for the year, but the last 2, including this one, he's missed. Well, he's played in only 15 games in 2 years.
Right. So how do you judge a guy like that? And then you go, well, because remember, when it comes to arbitration,
Mm-hmm.
we both go in there and say, okay, you've done this, you've done this, you've done that, but you've been hurt. And then we predict that you may get hurt again. What happens if you get hurt? The contract talks is they're bigger than 2 War and Peace contracts,
Yep.
Books, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
So they have clauses for everything. So, depending upon how much he wants, I would take a chance on him. Because there's going to be someone out there that's probably in a better team that'll say, okay, we'll take him because he may not have to play that much because we already got a number 1.
Yeah.
Well, we got a good team that he doesn't have to work as hard. Because with the Giants, he has to work hard because there's nobody. I can't say that they're not trying, but because remember, when you're in the NFL, you're the elite player. Even if you're the last guy on that bench, you're still an elite player.
Mm-hmm.
Until you get cut.
Yep.
So, how do you get the guy and say, this is the amount of money that we're going to give you? And maybe he don't want to stay with the Giants because where do you see them? Or with the Jets, where do you see them? As I said before, it's going to be very hard for them to get you that hope of, okay, because, both people have signed free agents, but no star power, no nothing, no oomph.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody that say, the only thing you can say is, yeah, he's a good player. He's a good plug-in,
Mm-hmm.
But nobody that can say, wow, he's great. I'm glad they signed him. I always say that the Davian Bell guy, the coach didn't like him and got rid of him, and I think he would have been perfect. I think he would have been, no matter what he did in the past, he was doing well for them. The coach didn't like him, and you lost out on a guy that could have helped the team.
Yeah.
But speaking of football, how are the playoffs?
Oh, my goodness. I thought you'd never ask.
Because the Niners and the Dallas Cowboys,
This, of course, is in reference to the wild card round when the 49ers just barely edged the Cowboys. No thanks to a ridiculous call by the Cowboys head coach, Mike McCarthy, having Dak Prescott run for a touchdown as opposed to possibly passing for one. And let me tell you, they are really, really infuriated over in the state of Texas.
Well, the way that state is run, I can see why. But all I know is that, Dallas team, great season, great players.
And they fail again in the postseason.
They can't. They don't be too surprised if they fire the coach.
After just 2 years?
Don't be too surprised because people have been fired for less, especially if you made a stupid play like that. If he lives to live another day for next year and doesn't do anything and doesn't take him farther, he's gone next year.
Mm-hmm.
He's done next year. You can't keep a guy like that. Again, how is the progress? If you're in the playoffs for 2 straight years and you don't get over that hump, you're gone.
Well,
yeah, I mean, that means you're good enough to build a team, to play around, and to get you there. But it won't get you, it won't get you to what you need, where you need to go. What do you think of all that?
Well, I still think that McCarthy is going to be given another shot and be back next year. I mean, where could they possibly go? I mean, would they consider one of the guys or coordinators that's interviewing for jobs now, or should they try at least one more year of Coach McCarthy? I don't think he's done a terrible job, but that decision that he made, having Prescott run instead of throwing the ball, easily one of the worst decisions that he's ever made.
Just remember who the owner is.
I know.
Okay.
Anyway, let's look at what happened this past weekend in the NFL playoffs. Every game, all 4 games, were decided at the very last minute. 3 decided by field goals at the buzzer, and 1 touchdown in overtime. By far, the game that took the cake was Chiefs and Bills. And something tells me there is going to be a potential rivalry between the Chiefs and the Bills. They've already played each other twice in the playoffs, and the Chiefs have won each time. Now they're going to host the NFC Championship game for a fourth straight season. And hosting a game in Kansas City really proved to be to the Chiefs' advantage, because that place, one time, I think Arrowhead Stadium may have challenged Quest Field in Seattle for having the most noise in a particular football game. So anyway, Patrick Mahomes once again showed that he was absolutely dynamic. And the game itself, it had so many twists and turns to it. By far, the last minute or so, I'd say minute 15, was probably the best minute 15 of football that I had ever seen. And to think, Buffalo was this close to going to an AFC Championship game. But once again, Patrick Mahomes showed why right now, he might be one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the game, up there with Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger too.
Is he retiring?
Ben Roethlisberger, there's a strong possibility that he's going to retire. His last game was when his Steelers got blown out by the Chiefs. And he may not be the only guy that's going to be on his way out. Aaron Rodgers could be next.
Why?
For one, he's been hinting at probably not returning to Green Bay next year. And for another, I think he might have decided that he might want to call it a career.
Maybe he just don't want to play for that team.
It could be, although he would have to go someplace where they really, really need a quarterback. And there's quite a few places that's in need of a quarterback right now.
Yeah, the Jets. Giants.
Yeah, but that means that you're impeding Zach Wilson's progress, and I'm not really too sure if the Jets can come up with that kind of idea. Not only that, but just remember what happened the last time the Jets employed a former Packer. That turned out to be a total disappointment.
Yeah, but the guy that they did that to was on his down. He wasn't going on his upside. He was going down. He was on his downside, and they knew it. They just thought that they had a genie in a bottle, and go, okay, I think we got something good going, because you have to remember once again, you don't want to impede the guy. But if the guy, I mean, as I said before, you would have to throw a buttload of money for this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Or even the Giants.
The Giants, I could probably see going. I could probably see him at least giving them the courtesy of an interview.
And then they have to go and impress the guy by saying, okay, if you come in here, who can we get? Who do you want on the team? Because that's what they'll probably say, because he's got that much pull. It's like being with LeBron James. Mm-hmm. We want this guy. You want this guy? We're going to get this guy. We want to make you happy. But again, salary cap and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it begins. I would just try to get a top-notch quarterback. And then with the Jets, too, probably I would try to get a top-notch quarterback and then let the guy learn. Let the guy learn for a year or so.
I just don't know. I mean,
yeah, because at least with the quarterback, then if the guy gets hurt, you got a really damn good quarterback like the years before. In years before, as you well know, the quarterback 9 out of 10 times had to sit and at least learn for at least a year or two, and then you would play. you don't have that luxury anymore. Remember that. You don't have that luxury anymore. So, yeah, if I can snag him and go, listen, dude, we trust you. You're young enough. Learn from this guy. We're going to get you in some games. Just learn from him. And then when you go out there, then you're going to be a top-notch quarterback. Sometimes you have to learn on the fly, and sometimes you just have to sit and just learn like most quarterbacks do.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and like I said, it's not like before where you used to get a guy, and then afterwards, the guy used to sit, not start.
Well, going to the other games that took place in the playoffs, we mentioned that Chiefs-Bills game, which was a classic playoff football game.
What happened again?
You mean in the Kansas City game?
Yeah, what happened in the last minute?
They accounted for 21 points in the last minute 15. And then actually 24 points in the last minute and 15 seconds. And then after that, the Chiefs won the coin toss, and they wound up driving downfield, and Mahomes wound up getting the game-winning touchdown to Travis Kelce, and the Chiefs clinched a spot in the AFC title game.
All right. What's next up on the list?
San Francisco and Green Bay. That was a very strong defensive battle between those two teams. But as great as he is, and as great as he has been in the past, Aaron Rodgers was unable to sustain more than just 2 drives. He only led them to 10 points. And all of a sudden, people are starting to ask if Aaron Rodgers' playoff failures, aside from the one championship that he brought home, are going to damage his legacy.
You know, if he's worried about his legacy, he's got to come back next year and prove that he can still do it.
Yep.
If he's not worried about his legacy, he's got no problem. But if he's worried about his legacy, he'll come back next year.
Yeah.
And go out with a bang, hopefully. Hopefully the team will help him out by going, okay, this is the guys we're going to get now. It'll be stronger this year. Next year, you're going to go out with a bang.
And while Aaron Rodgers has to go home and lick his wounds from a devastating loss, Jimmy Garoppolo of the 49ers once again showed that when he's got his 100% health, he is probably one of the most clutch quarterbacks in recent memory. And now he has to lead his 49ers into LA to play the Rams. The Rams were another team that wound up getting a field goal as the horn for the Rangers goes off. The Rangers lead the Kings 1-0, by the way. Anyway.
Yes.
The Rams wound up winning on the very last play of the game. You know, they almost blew a 24-point lead. They actually did blow a 24-point lead because Tom Brady wound up working his magic once again. But as it turns out, the pass that Matthew Stafford threw to Cooper Kupp was just in the nick of time, and the Rams were able to march forward. But this does raise a question, though. Matthew Stafford, who was traded to the Rams for Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford played only 3 playoff games in 12 years with the Lions. Never won a single playoff game. Now he has a chance to equal that in this year alone. What must Jared Goff be thinking, especially after the horrendous year that he had, winning 2 games with the Lions? Well, one thing's for sure. That 49er Rams game for the NFC Championship, that's going to be a hell of a ball game because you've got 2 guys, one of which is a clutch player, the other a guy who wasn't necessarily terrible, but always seemed to play on a team that could not right itself. So that's another thing. So let's see. Probably my favorite story is Cincinnati. Cincinnati wound up going into Tennessee, and they wound up getting the final points of the game on a field goal on the last play of the game. And Cincinnati, they've gone from laughingstocks to 1 game away from the Super Bowl, which leads me to this. What would make for a really good Super Bowl? You've got 4 teams, the Rams, the Niners, the Chiefs, and the Bengals. What would make for a really good Super Bowl? You have Kansas City, which has a dominant quarterback who's now in just his 5th season, going up against the Cincinnati squad that has a quarterback of their own who, when he is 100% healthy, has shown the mark of being another big game quarterback. You have the Rams, who, not by coincidence, but ever since they returned to Southern California from St. Louis, they've actually played well, aside from missing the playoffs 1 time. But now the Rams have Matthew Stafford as their quarterback, and he has been dynamic this season. And it helps to have a guy like Cooper Kupp as a number 1 wide receiver, and also a pretty decent running game, too. You also have, that's pretty much it. So I guess
so far, next Sunday is going to be whom against who?
So next Sunday, it's Rams and Niners in L.A.
Right.
And in the AFC, it's going to be Bengals and Chiefs.
And who are you picking?
Well, out of the AFC, I still like Kansas City. I really think that Patrick Mahomes is something special, and he proved it at the end yesterday. And
Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm. Patrick Mahomes beat Tom Brady, which is something that very few quarterbacks can brag about. And in the other game, Rams and 49ers, that's going to be a tough one, because not only do the 49ers have the better quarterback, but they also, when he's healthy, but they also have a really underrated defense when you think about it. I mean, they spanked Arizona, and then came yesterday when they wound up holding Green Bay to just 10 points.
Don't forget they beat Dallas.
And the 49ers wound up beating Dallas, too, yeah.
And, you know, in Staten Island, there's a really big, huge Dallas fan.
What's that?
There's a lot of different types of fans here. When you go to, like, Applebee's or the sports bars and stuff, you'll see them with their shirts and everything.
Oh, yeah. That goes without saying.
Yeah. And, but it's going to be a good game.
Going to be a good pair of games this coming Sunday. And for the record, I like San Francisco to come out of the NFC, which means Kansas City versus San Francisco in the Super Bowl for the 2nd time in the last 3 years.
Well, if Niners win, how many Super Bowls is that? They surpassed
If the
Pittsburgh,
Niners were able to
Dallas.
win the Super Bowl, this would give them 6 championships.
Yeah, they would surpass Dallas.
They would tie
Pittsburgh.
Dallas.
They would tie Dallas?
They would
Wow.
tie Dallas because the Cowboys also have 5 rings.
Oh, okay.
5 Super Bowl trophies, I should say.
Right. But let me ask you, the James Harden going to Philly, you think that's going to happen?
It's 50-50 at this point. But to be quite
Yeah,
honest with you, I think he's got a really good thing going with the Brooklyn Nets. So
Not that the Phillies are slouches. They got a damn good team.
you mean the Sixers?
Yeah, the Sixers. Well,
And yes, they
76ers.
do have a really good team, led by a center who has really changed the game by expanding the lane with his three-point shot.
I think that the Knicks should get Bol.
Actually, they've already didn't they already the Denver
No.
Nuggets didn't they already trade Bol?
No, because of his foot. He has to get operated on his foot.
Mm-hmm.
They canceled that trade. But that would have been good to get Bol. Because he's a good player. The problem is when you're that tall, you don't get the calls that you're supposed to get. That's the thing with the NBA. When you're very tall, you don't. Because remember, first and foremost, basketball is a non-contact sport to become either MMA or wrestling. And secondly, there are certain calls because he's so big, he's so tall, that they're going to push him. They're going to do a lot of things that you're supposed to get called.
Mm-hmm.
But I keep on reading James Harden going to the 76ers. I'm reading about how in AAA they're using computer umpires.
That is the dumbest thing that they could do to
For the
try
play.
and
Only for the
damage
play.
the sport.
They're using them for AAA, and they're doing it for this year. And how does that damage the sport? You're getting the proper call.
Because you need that human element in the game that's going to not necessarily make a difference, but make the right call. That's why we got replay.
But the computer. No, you can't make a replay on a pitch. That's why they're processing the computers for balls and strikes. I mean, computers are just going to take human beings over. That's all that's going to happen. But the reason why they're doing this is so that the umpires behind the plate, if you have a favorite pitcher, you know how they pitch, they're not going to get away with some of the calls that they normally would get. Because the strike zone is the strike zone. Computer doesn't recognize you. They just recognize, here's the strike zone, here's where you got to throw the ball. If the ball's not thrown here, it's not a strike. So you're right, the human element and the umpires behind the plate are going to lose not only their jobs, but some of the pitchers are not going to get the calls that they would normally get. So you're absolutely right on that.
Well, we have
And
less.
one last quick thing, which is, what did you think of the Cam Reddish trade?
It's a decent trade. I mean, not sure how much he's going to play for them, but he could give them a little bit of scoring.
They don't lose nothing because like I said, Kevin Knox never really got a fair shot, but
Exactly
second
right.
round and Kevin Knox, Cam
Yep.
Reddish.
Well,
He's one more year.
Can you,
That's it.
all right, well, as you can see from the graphics, it's time for us to bounce out. So for everyone
All
here,
right.
I'm Jamie.
I'm Hector. Remember to announce me as the hardest batter.
No. Goodbye.
See you next time. You hear me?